Try being more of a team player, Dana Whitmore said, her voice honeyed and sharp like a polished knife. Across the desk, I kept my expression neutral, even as my nails dug into my palm beneath the table. She sat in her glass corner office, high above downtown Austin, dressed in her signature pastel blazer and corporate calm. Avery, you're brilliant. But Kelsey, she's magnetic. People just like her more. You understand, don't you? No, I didn't. Not after 6 years at Harbor and Chaseware. I'd overhauled entire client onboarding systems, cut $1.8 million in operational waste, and mentored 3 of our top-performing junior consultants, but the promotion was going to Kelsey Vaughn. Again, because she hosted wine nights and posted motivational quotes on LinkedIn. Dana waited for me to smile, to say, I understand. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out a white envelope, and slid it across the table. I appreciate the feedback, I said evenly. Here's my resignation. Effective 2 weeks from today. Before we start, take a moment. What time is it right now? And where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments. This story, it might feel strangely personal. 6 years ago, I walked away from a secure teaching career to start over in corporate consulting, a world I had no blueprint for, no connections in, and zero margin for error. I joined Harbor and Chase at 35, surrounded by 20-somethings in tailored blazers and relentless confidence. I was older, quieter, and I had everything to prove. While others networked over cocktails, I was in the office late, rewriting broken SOPs and cleaning up client portfolios no one else wanted to touch. I turned around 3 accounts in my first 6 months, 2 of which were flagged for cancellation before I stepped in. No one clapped, no one posted about it, but I kept going. I built performance dashboards from scratch, designed a team training module that cut onboarding time in half, tracked efficiency data obsessively until I found the gaps no one else saw. Then I filled them. Slowly, clients started asking for me by name. Junior staff dropped by my desk asking how I handled pressure, how I structured my weeks. I never played the room, but I knew how to run one. By year 4, I was managing multi-million-dollar client strategies with zero fanfare. And that was the problem. Because while I was producing results, Kelsey Vaughn was producing image. She curated charm the way I curated outcomes. Her desk was always spotless, her hair camera ready, her socials flooded with team selfies captioned "Number Leadership Vibes." I didn't host happy hours. I hosted weekly check-ins that kept our clients from walking. I didn't trend online. I trended up in quarterly growth. But none of that mattered when the promotion cycle came around. Dana Whitmore, our regional lead, didn't say it outright, but she didn't have to. Kelsey was easier, more visible, more likable. And I was the engine behind the scenes, the one they didn't see until the day I stopped running for them. The moment I handed Dana that envelope, something shifted in the air. Her hand hovered over it like she wasn't sure whether to pick it up or set it on fire. Avery, she started, her voice stumbling. I think we're both just overwhelmed. Let's talk through this. No need, I said, my voice steady. You were clear, and so am I. I've always focused on outcomes. That's why I'm leaving. She blinked, thrown off by how calm I was, like she expected me to cry, to beg, to fight for the thing she already gave away. What she didn't know, what none of them did, was that I had stopped fighting for their approval long ago. 3 years ago, after my second project proposal was ignored in favor of Kelsey's team bonding retreat, I started building something on the side, not during work hours, not with company resources, but entirely my own. A platform, an adaptive team performance system that mapped strengths, forecasted burnout, and automated internal accountability, quietly tested with a few trusted connections, gradually refined. I called it Optics Flow. Last quarter, I filed the patent, and tucked behind that resignation letter Dana had yet to open, a second document, a full impact report showing how my model had already saved the firm close to $2 million in preventable turnover, duplicate workflows, and failed cross-team integration. All without them knowing it was mine. For weeks, I'd been backing up metrics, documentation, timelines organizing not to take, but to prove. To protect the value they never bothered to measure. The rest of that day felt like theater. Kelsey paraded through the office, latte in hand, basking in her invisible crown. She leaned over my cubicle with a sugary smile. "Gam, I hope you're not too crushed. I know you really wanted that spot." I returned her smile with equal sweetness. "No hard feelings, Kelsey," I said softly. "You'll shine." She walked away smug. She didn't know that in 7 days, she'd be standing in the ruins of a system built on style, not substance, and I wouldn't be there to fix it. 1 week after my resignation, I met Marcus Delaney at a quiet cafe in East Austin. He didn't come with an assistant or a presentation deck. Just a single folder and the kind of calm that only comes from someone who already knows what he wants. "I've followed your work for 2 years," he said, sliding the folder across the table. "Not the company's numbers, yours." Inside was a report thicker than I expected, pulls from public client data, LinkedIn articles I'd written under a pseudonym, internal results that weren't supposed to be traceable to me. He smiled, reading the surprise on my face. "We watch quietly," he said, "especially when someone's creating outcomes in the shadows." He tapped the folder. "And this," he said, lowering his voice, "this is not a resume, this is leverage." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. He already knew. "I'm not offering you a job," he continued. "I'm offering you a partnership, full equity, strategic freedom. You bring optics flow to Altair, we integrate it firm-wide, and we scale it together." It wasn't the money that stunned me. It was the respect, the clarity. No vague praise, no charm-based assessments, just results and room to grow them. When I signed the contract later that afternoon, something shifted inside me. The weight I'd carried for years, the invisible burden of proving, explaining, translating my worth lifted. I wasn't being welcomed into a team. I was being handed the keys to build one. As I stepped out into the Texas sun, phone buzzing with onboarding messages and welcome notes from Altair's senior leads, I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. Back at Harbor and Chase, Kelsey was likely picking the perfect frame for her Director of Culture nameplate. Meanwhile, I was about to redefine the culture itself at a firm that valued substance over selfies. And I knew they'd feel the difference very, very soon. My first day at Altair Dynamics felt like stepping into a parallel universe. No passive-aggressive Slack threads. No office politics disguised as performance reviews. Just clean lines, clear expectations, and people who cared more about delivery than decorum. My new office overlooked Lady Bird Lake floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist design, and a nameplate that simply read, Avery Sinclair, Partner, Strateg, Systems Innovation. Marcus held an all-hands meeting to introduce Minot with a PR script, but with a story. "She didn't just build a system," he said. "She built clarity in chaos. She didn't raise her voice. She raised results." And then, he added, "She's not here to fit in. She's here to raise the bar. Help." I had never heard my work described with such precision. I wasn't being rewarded for being agreeable. I was being respected for being impactful. 3 weeks in, Optics Flow was already operational in 2 pilot divisions. Timeline efficiency rose by 41%. Internal miscommunications dropped by half. Then came the first crack from Harbor and Chase. A former colleague forwarded me a link from the Chicago Business Review. Harbor and Chase faces Q2 breakdown. Flagship clients exit amid operational collapse. The article was brutal. Missed deadlines, lost contracts, internal processes that seemed to vanish overnight. A direct quote from a client I'd personally managed hit hardest. "It's like the spine of the company disappeared." It had. Because I was that spine. Kelsey was still posting morning latte selfies with, "We've got this fire," captions while their back-end systems quietly unraveled. The system they dismissed, the one they ignored, then depended on. My inbox buzzed. Tariq Henderson. "Rachel's crying in the break room. They tried rebuilding your platform. It's a disaster." I leaned back in my chair, sun spilling across my desk. I didn't smile out of spite. I smiled because I didn't need revenge. I had results, and the only thing louder than success was the silence that followed their mistake. On the morning of my final onboarding milestone at Altair, an email slid into my inbox with a subject line that froze me for just a second, from Dana Whitmore. Subject: Apology. I opened it slowly, coffee untouched in my hand. Avery, I assume you've heard what's happening at Harbor and Chase. I wanted to reach out because I owe you something I should have said a long time ago. I was wrong. About your platform, about your leadership, about what really drives results. The board knows now, the clients know, and I know. I resigned last week. Kelsey stepped down a month ago. Turns out, charm doesn't meet deadlines. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you understand. Best, Dana. I stared at the screen not with anger, but with a strange, distant calm. There was a time when I would have printed that email, read it 100 times, let it patch wounds that never fully healed, but not today. Because today, I didn't need it. My systems were live across 4 departments. Optics Flow was being negotiated for licensing with 3 Fortune 100 firms. And I'd just received an internal memo. Marcus had nominated me for the Executive Innovation Council. I typed a short reply. Thank you for your message, Dana. Your right results do matter. I wish you clarity in whatever comes next. Then I hit send. A few hours later, Tariq messaged me. Their board's asking if you'd consider coming back, CEO level. I just stared at the message, then typed back. Appreciate it, but I'm exactly where I need to be, because real success isn't about circling back to prove them wrong. It's about proving yourself right and moving forward without waiting for them to notice. And sometimes the cleanest closure is no longer needing one. It was our first full team strategy session since the rollout of Optics Flow across Altair's core divisions. The room was buzzing: engineers, project leads, client strategists. All of them here not because they had to be, but because they wanted to be part of something better. When Marcus introduced me, he didn't list my accomplishments. He simply said, "This is the person who built the engine behind our future. Avery, the floor is yours." I stood at the front of the room, hands steady, eyes focused, and for the first time, I told the truth, the full truth. I used to work in a place where results came second to appearances, I began, where systems didn't matter unless someone louder could explain them, and where leadership was measured by who you had lunch with, not what you built. A few heads nodded. Quietly, knowingly. I built Optics Flow in the shadows after being told maybe next cycle 3 years in a row. After my ideas were dismissed for being too technical, too serious, too much. I let the words settle. But the truth is, I wasn't too much. I was just more than they knew how to measure. A silence fell over the room, not awkward, reverent. I don't tell you this for sympathy, I said. I tell you because some of you are building right now, in silence, without recognition. And I want you to know it counts. You count. Even if they don't see it yet. Several people leaned forward. Others scribbled notes, not about metrics but about meaning. Here we build with purpose, I said. We recognize contribution not by volume, but by value. And that won't change. As I wrapped up, the room didn't erupt into applause. It leaned into alignment. Because this wasn't just about launching a platform. It was about launching a culture. One where quiet excellence was no longer hidden. It was honored. And for the first time in my career, I wasn't just part of a company. I was shaping what it stood for. 6 months after I walked out of Harbor and Chase, I found myself stopped at a red light across from their downtown office. The building looked the same: steel, glass, and hollow promise. But something had changed. On the 4th floor, a for lease sign flickered behind tinted windows. The old logo, once so proud, was sun-bleached and chipped. They were downsizing. Again. And for the first time, I didn't feel smug. I felt grateful. Grateful they overlooked me. Grateful they didn't recognize the value I brought. Because in pushing me out, they set me free to build something real. At Altair, Optics Flow had expanded into every core division. Project timelines had dropped by 52%. Client satisfaction scores reached their highest in company history. We had 3 licensing deals in the works with Fortune 100 firms, and for the first time, my name wasn't buried in a footnote. It was on the patent, on the keynote slide, on the building directory. Avery Sinclair, Executive Vice President, Strategic Innovation. That morning, Marcus had handed me a printed copy of the Austin Business Journal. Front page headline: Harbor and Chase restructures amid leadership exodus and systems collapse. They tried to rebuild your platform in-house, Marcus said, sipping his coffee. Didn't go well. They copied the code, I replied, but not the logic behind it. And the logic was everything. He smiled. That's why we don't just want your code. We want your mind. Later that night, back at my townhome in East Austin, I sat in my home office walls lined with clean whiteboards and plans for the next rollout phase. Above my desk, framed in matte black, was an old quote Dana once threw at me like a critique. You're too focused on results. She wasn't wrong. That focus is what brought me here. To clarity, to leadership, to peace, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. As I looked out from my home office that night, lights of Austin blinking beyond the window, my mind wasn't on metrics or rollouts, it was on the other Averys out there. The ones still sitting in meetings, watching their ideas get repackaged by louder voices. The ones doing the heavy lifting while someone else gets the credit. The ones quietly wondering, is it me? Am I asking for too much? Let me be clear, you're not. Wanting to be valued for what you build isn't ego, it's equity. You're not difficult because you focus on outcomes. You're not disposable because you don't play the game. You're just ahead of your environment. And sometimes, that means outgrowing it. If my story means anything, I hope it's this. Don't wait to be chosen. Don't shrink to fit. Don't let someone else's inability to see your worth convince you to stop believing in it. Use their doubt as data. Use their silence as strategy. Then build something so real, so powerful, they can't look away even if they tried. That's what I did. That's what we can do. Because substance always outlasts spectacle. And quiet strength? It doesn't just survive. It shifts the room. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.